It occurs to me that we spend most of our life pushing forward, heading to what's next, trying to get there as fast as we can. Maybe it's your next grade in school. Maybe it's your next party that you're going to go to. Maybe it's the next event on your calendar, your next vacation. We spend a lot of time moving forward. But especially in this increasing speedy culture that keeps pushing, is ever faster. It occurs to me that maybe it's a good thing for us to every once in a while stop and look back and remember. For instance, for me on this just trail out here in the wilderness, if I stop and look back, I notice this cactus that's obviously had a rough life, and this rocky terrain here, and some of the different bushes, and the splash of sun on the mountains in the background. I missed all of that when I was pushing forward, but now as I look back, I can see where I've been, and it helps me. And it occurs to me that if that's true in this trail life, in our physical life, it's probably true in our spiritual life as well. Yeah, it's Joshua 24. It's as if the old man Joshua is saying to the people of Israel, before we settle into this promised land, it's good for us to remember. I think that's what he's getting at when the Lord speaks through Joshua, and these two words stand out to me in verse 2, chapter 24, verse 2. Long ago. It's as if God is saying, man, we've been on a long journey, and this has been a great experience, but before we move any further, let's remember where we've been. I think the first thing that Joshua is calling the people of Israel, and therefore us, to remember is all the places you've been. Remember where you've been. And he kind of goes through a little map lesson for them here, recalling over 500 years of history. It reminds them that there was a time you were beyond the Euphrates. There was a time that you wandered through the land of Canaan, and there was a time you were slaves down in Egypt. And then you came into the wilderness for a long time, and you were on the other side of Jordan. Then you came to Jericho, and then now you're spread out through this entire promised land. He's saying it's really important, if you're going to experience God, to remember all the places you've been. And if that's true for the people of God in the Old Testament, then it's true for us. If we're to experience God, we've got to remember, where was it that we were the first day of school, and where were we married, and what was it like the first house that we had, and what state did you live in, and where were you born? There's a lot of remembering to do. No matter how old or how young you are, you've been some places, and Joshua's asking the people, he's challenging them, remember where you've been. But remembering where you've been is only part of the equation. I think that Joshua is wanting these people to remember where they've been, and also where they are, and how it is that God got them to where they are. If you look through chapter 24, it's amazing, all these I statements, where Joshua's reminding them it's God saying, I took you from where you were. I took your father Abraham. I led him. I gave Esau and Jacob the hill country. I plagued Egypt. I brought you out of the midst of it. I brought you out. I brought your fathers out. I brought you into the land of the Amorites. I got you off the other side of Jordan into this promised land. I would not listen to Balaam. I delivered you out of his hand over and over again. I sent the hornet before you, which drove out the Amorites. You're living in a land. I love this verse 13. I gave you a land you're living in. You didn't plant anything, but you're eating from it. You didn't build houses, but you're living in them. It's really important to note as we remember how God has got us from where we were to where we are. And if that's true for them, then maybe a good place for us to start would be to think about, we were all at one time sinners, but by the grace of God through Jesus Christ, He's washed us and brought us to where we are. We no longer live in the death and sadness of our sin. We live in eternal life because of Jesus Christ. And beyond that, then, for those of us who walk in Christ, He's answered so many prayers, done so many miracles in our lives. Even as we look back and remember the hard times, God's faithfulness has gotten us through. So yeah, remember where you've been, but remember how God has gotten you from where you were to where you are. So this is where our Joshua 24 experience begins. We're going to remember together. And this is where the tent experience is so important, whether you're in your student tent or your family tent or whatever tent you're a part of. We get to remember together. We get to share our stories with each other. And so we're going to spend some time remembering where you've been. That's so important. But also sharing how God has gotten you from where you were to where you are. Let's remember together this week.